Okay, well, my name is Wendy, and I know we have a lot of cross-line friends in here. So if I've never met you, hello, and thank you so much for being here tonight. We have the honor of a very special speaker educator tonight. Ed Daly is joining us, and he is a global trainer for Young Living. He has been an RN for over 26 years, and he has served in several clinical settings, including oncology, HIV medicine. He's been in the OR, and he has developed integrative therapy programs that use Young Living's oils in clinical practice. So he is a global educator for Young Living, and he is also the current director of the holistic development for Young Living. So we are excited to have him on this call. He is a wealth of information. You will never be sorry for tuning in to one of Ed's engagements, because you will walk away and have information to make changes in your life. So Ed, welcome, welcome, welcome. It is 5:59 and we are so on time.
Well, that is awesome. Thank you, Wendy. I'm so happy to be here tonight. Welcome to everyone. We've got someone from Bangkok, Thailand on. Yahoo! All right, it's the other side. It's a new day over there. If you haven't met me, I am passionate about quality education and delivering to all Young Living members globally, in empowering them with the knowledge of education. And we're going to do that tonight. And by the end of our conversation, and that's what we're having a conversation, you're going to have a better understanding about not only gut health, but how important it is for your gut health to keep your neurological system, i.e. your brain health, in order and happy. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here so you can see what I'm seeing. And the name of our module is called Super Gut, Super Brain. So I want to give a little bit of a background. I've been an RN now, as Wendy said, for 26 years and been in healthcare for almost 30. And when I started to really dive into some of the things about the physiological systems, including our gut, I started to become very fascinated as to how this affected people's neurological status. And I'm sure that you can all relate. You know someone who's had dementia, maybe possibly Alzheimer's. And tonight we're going to talk about how to prevent that. And more importantly, we're going to talk about how Young Living products fit into these categories to keep your GI system and your neurological systems very healthy. Well, I did a thing last month. I got married to a beautiful woman. Her name is Jenna, and we got married. This is January 2nd on Siesta Key Beach. And God works in amazing ways, because about a week prior, we were looking at having 68 degrees and kind of rainy. And there was a little intervention, divine intervention. And as you can see, it was a beautifully gorgeous day. This picture was captured almost right at sunset. And it was just a beautiful day. So I love sharing personal things in my life to let you know that I'm all just like you. And I'm a very happy man. And I'm very grateful to have this opportunity to share my life with someone who I deeply care about. We do have some objectives tonight, and I want you to walk away with a better understanding on how gut health is really important in overall health. And again, learning about the relationship between gut health and your brain and neurological systems health. So we're going to ask some questions. And if you're answering yes to a lot of these questions, that means you want to take really good notes, because you might be having some issues with your GI system. So number one, do you get indigestion often? So does it happen 2, 3, 4 times a week? Do you get bloated often? Are you sensitive to foods? Some people say, oh no, I can't eat those things because it really messes me up. Have you needed a lot of courses of antibiotics in your life? And usually when I say a lot, that's 10 or more. Number 3, were you breastfed for at least a month? That's actually a really good thing if you were. This is a kind of a personal question, but if you suffer from a history of depression, in the functional medicine world, they think that depression is linked to a depressed GI system. Do you have constipation or diarrhea? If you do, those are malabsorption issues. Have you needed a lot of steroid medication? And do you have food allergies? So if you're answering yes to quite a few of these, then that is your body, your GI system saying, please help me because we have some things going on down here. Now, if you remember a guy named Linus Pauling, he did a lot of research with vitamin C and things. He said, if you get the structure right, the function will follow. And your GI system is a structure. On average, it's 28 to 32 feet from your mouth to where you go to the bathroom. And there's a lot of room for error in that structure. And so we have to pay very, very close attention, not only to our intestines, but our accessory organs as well. Now, everything in your body is in relationship. When I first went to nursing school, over 30 years ago, you were taught about systems of the body. And in modern medicine today, if you have a heart problem, you go to the cardiologist. If you break a bone, I just found out like Tiger Woods was in a terrible car accident. Well, the orthopedic surgeons are treating him and they're healing those bones. If you have a problem with your ear, you go to the ENT doctor. Now, the problem with that is that they have to be specially trained for their profession to treat you right. But they sort of look through a very small lens at you as a person, and they don't understand that your heart is related to your kidneys. Your GI system is related to your immune system. Your immune system is related to your endocrine system. Your endocrine system is related to your cardiovascular system. So everything is in relationship. Everything is. When we look at functional medicine, which gets to the root cause of the problem, there's a lot of discussion about lifestyle and environment, and then your genetic makeup. And people say, oh, what do you believe in any diets? No, I don't believe in any diets because the foods you eat are either turning on your genetic expression for disease and illness, or they're actually keeping it at bay. And they have a term for this in functional medicine. It's called biohacking. So let's start with the good news. If you're eating great foods and your GI system is in great health, you are biohacking your way to health and wellness. If you are utilizing Young Living products in your daily life, you are biohacking your way to health and wellness. And if you're not, then you're biohacking your way to many, many health challenges. And so I want to start there because the choices you make on a daily basis, and you made 30,000 of them today. You may not have been conscious of it or not, but the average car ride that is an hour long, you make 1,200 choices: when to brake, when to signal, when to turn, when not to turn, when to look in the rearview mirror, when to look in the side view mirror, when to turn on your radio, when to turn the radio down. 1,200 choices just in a 1-hour car ride. So when we look at gut health, we look at 4 components. We look at our digestion. Are we digesting our foods well? Are we absorbing the foods well? Are we excreting the foods well? And are our systems uptaking the nutriments, not nutrients? Nutrients and nutriments are 2 different things. So that's your first homework assignment. If you don't know the difference between a nutrient and a nutriment, I'd like you to look that up and be empowered with that. But does the body uptake those nutrients and nutriments? So today, I had this beautiful salad for lunch filled with blueberries, and it had some nuts on there. It had some other things in there. And my GI system is in good health because I'm taking good care of it. And I know that the nutrients are getting uptaken into my body to keep me healthy and strong. Now, here's a great slide just of your GI system. You can see that you have the upper GI system, which is your mouth, your pharynx, and your esophagus. You have the accessory organs, your liver, your gallbladder, and your pancreas. And then you have the lower GI system, which is your small intestine and large intestine, and then your rectum as well. So again, 28 to 32 feet long in most people. Some people can be shorter or longer, but there's a lot of room for things to go wrong here. And I want you to understand that this system affects every other system, including your neurological health. So the process of eating food is pretty simple. You have your meal, amylase starts to get released in your mouth, and that starts to break down the carbohydrates. It gets to your stomach, and pepsin is released, and that starts to break down the proteins. And then in the duodenum, bile is added, and the result of that is this slurry thing called chyme, and that makes its travel all through the intestinal tract. And then whatever you don't need is released as fecal matter. Now, the question I want to ask is, how did we get to this point where every doctor in America is not looking at gut health as that important for neurological health? In the functional medicine world, there's a lot of literature and a lot of docs that really understand this. Well, we have to do a time travel back into 1920. And there was a guy, he was Dr. Henry Cotton, he was a psychiatrist. He believed at the time insanity was caused by the result of chronic infections. And his cure was that he had his surgical teams removing many parts of the intestinal tract, tongue, esophagus, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, liver, accessory organs. And this guy was actually one of the most well admired physicians at the time. And he was traveling all over Europe and the United States. And then they found out that he was not a good guy. He was not only falsifying his data, that's saying what he was doing was actually important, but a third of his patients were dying of post-surgical complications. So he was killing patients and then falsifying what he was talking about. So what do you think every doctor in Europe and the US did at that time? They did one of these. They said, we are not going to talk about gut health and relationship at all. And folks, this is 101 years ago. So this was not that long ago that this was happening. So we have done a 360 completely because the functional medicine folks know that, your gut health is super, super important. So let's talk about the 4 R's of gut health. And I'm going to let you know, if you're not taking great notes, that I will be giving Wendy this presentation as our leader, as one of our leaders of Young Living. She will get this presentation so you can have this for further resource, and she can disseminate it upon you as much as you want. And folks, I want you to know I work really hard on this. This presentation here took me almost 7 weeks to put together and research. So this isn't something that I just fly off the top of my head, but I give it to Wendy because she's a proven leader and she needs to help everyone on her teams and crosslines understand what is going on. So the number one thing we want to do is remove. What do you think we want to remove? Well, I call them the frightening 5: dairy, gluten, soy, corn, GMO'd, sugar, and peanuts. Dairy is inflammatory in nature. We're going to talk about inflammation a lot. Gluten is inflammatory in nature. Soy and corn are inflammatory in nature. Sugar causes advanced glycation end products, which we'll talk about. And peanuts just are not absorbed very well. Nuts in general are pretty good. Almonds, pistachios, those are good for your digestive system. Those are high in fiber. But peanuts really don't have a lot of nutritional value. I want you to replace that gluten with einkorn products. Now, if you're a true celiac, well, you gotta stay away from that as well. But our einkorn has lower gluten levels. I love the einkorn granola just as a little like mid-morning snack, maybe with a little unsweetened almond milk and a few blueberries on there. No pesticides and great taste. So this is a great way to switch, as we say, the ditch and switch, right? All right, you want to replace. And what do we want to replace? Enzymes. If you are not taking Young Living enzymes, please rethink that decision, because you are born with an enzyme bank and it's really high. So, the other news that this, my daughter released, she just had a baby Lily is 2 weeks old, and she's got a huge enzyme bank right now. But as she gets older and she gets exposed to toxins and, contaminants in our world and persistent organic pollutants, then her enzyme bank gets low. And if your enzyme bank gets low, you're not going to digest your foods well. So my enzyme protocol is essential enzymes 45 minutes before every meal, 5 detox time in the morning, maybe 5 to 10 in the evening, depending on what I've had to eat that day. I'm always switching up my enzyme protocol. So when I'm not using essential enzymes 4, I'll use essential enzymes or allerzyme, which is the most potent of our enzymes. We also need a lot of fiber. Now, how many of you actually eat 6, servings of fruits and vegetables every day? I don't. I get my blueberries in every day because that's good for my cardiac health. But, I'll have a couple of Tangelos or things like that. But if you need fiber, then ICP is the way to go. And if you're going to have this and you're going to take it, please make sure you're having adequate water intake. So many times people will say to me, hey, Ed, I just started ICP. I haven't pooped in 4 days. Like what? Like how much water are you drinking? Are you really increasing your water? And you have to flush the system so that fiber gets bulked up and it just goes, okay, right out. And that's what we want. And it's made with essential oils and the fibers that we need. The third R is to re-inoculate. You have to give back to the microbiome, which we're going to talk about. Folks, I want you to look at the screen right here. There are 9 strains of good bacteria on there. Do you know that you can go to PubMed right now and you can find the research on here that each of these 9 strains actually invests into the microbiome really, really well. So when Young Living made Life 9, and it used to be Life 5, now it's Life 9, these are well-researched strains which actually feed the microbiome, and we're going to talk about what that does in a little bit. Now, when should I take my probiotic? Well, some people say in the morning, but I suggest at bedtime. Now, if I'm traveling, which I'm not doing a lot of these days, but last year or the year before last, I flew 267,000 miles in an airplane. And when I would go to Singapore, Malaysia, or Indonesia, I would be doubling up on my probiotics because I know that travel affects the microbiome. So remember, 1 Life 9 is a maintenance dose. Most of you on this call, I don't know how to see, there's 215 people or 235 people on this call. Most of you need at least 2 to 3 a night. So remember that. All right, what is not effective, folks, is yogurt, okay? There is not enough good bacteria in the yogurt really for an ant. But we're led to believe that by some very clever marketing. And I'm just going to show you one company, what they've done is that they say, oh, take us and we'll help you live a happy, healthy life. Well, if you look sideways a little bit and you look at the ingredients, what are the first 2 ingredients? You see reduced fat milk, inflammatory, and sugar, inflammatory. So you're duped into believing that, oh my God, like I'm gonna really like do really good and I'm gonna take my brand X yogurt. You're not doing any good. You're actually harming yourself. And what I call that is very, very, very good marketing on a company's part when they can make you believe something that is totally the opposite. All right. The last R of gut health is to replenish. You have to give back, just like when someone comes up that you really care about and they give you a hug and you just want to squeeze them back and you just like, oh, thank you. Like you want to give back to your gut in the same way that you give back to other human beings. And the first thing you really need to give back to is the gut mucosa, right? Because that's super important. And the first thing you need is zinc. Zinc is one of the most important elements for the gut mucosa. Pantothenic acid or B5. Avocados are a great source of that. So is fresh wild caught salmon. Now, there's a lot of salmon out there. I found this out a couple of years ago. 95% of all salmon in Canada is genetically modified. Did you know that? I didn't know that. I found out a couple of years ago speaking at a health conference up there in Canada. And I was appalled. I was like, how does that happen? So you want to give that B5 back. So you can get it from foods, but there's also a couple other places which we'll talk about, and it's Master Formula. If this is not on your ER every month, again, rethink that decision. Okay, so I'm asked all the time, hey, Ed, what do you suggest for your team? Well, I don't have a team. I'm a corporate employee. So, I don't have a team of people. You're my team right now. Tonight, you're the most important team because you're in front of me. And you want to give back to that mucosa. But if I was to suggest, if I had a team, I would say there are 4 products that you need on your ER every month. One is Life 9. Number 2 is Master Formula. Number 3 is Nixure Red. And number 4 is Sulfurzyme. And if you don't have those products, then we have to teach you the value of them so that you understand, oh, this is what this does. So the value of Master Formula, one of its many values is that it has 15 milligrams of zinc every day. It's an excellent source of B5. And if you ever had the chance to meet Gary, and I got a chance to spend some time with Gary when he was still with us, he was not only a master blender and distiller of essential oils, folks. He was a master blender and distiller of our supplements as well, because he was infusing our supplements with essential oils. All right, your omega-3 fatty acids as well. So omega 3, we need 2 to 3 grams a day. We can look to those food sources, but most of us need a little bit more of a boost. And omega 3 actually helps with that cognitive brain function, and it also supports your cardiovascular system. Now, just think about it. If your heart as a pump isn't working well, is the rest of the body going to do great? It's not. And so we want to get back to the heart. We want to get back to the cognition of ourselves and our brain function. And this is where we help. Excuse me one sec. My screen just went off. All right. So let's move on to our next slide. The other thing you need for the gut mucosa is glutamine, not glutathione, not glutamate. Okay, those are two different things. And you get that from fresh spinach, from kale, from Brussels sprouts, papaya. Papaya is also really high in enzymes. It's an enzyme food, so it's a natural enzymatic food like mangoes. Now, Brussels sprouts are really cool as well because they're also known as cruciferous vegetables. Now, what does that mean? That's a big word, Ed. Well, basically, if you take your Brussels sprouts and you cut them in half and you soak them in a little olive oil and add some vitality oils for flavor and maybe a little fresh, some Himalayan sea salt, guess what happens when you let them sit for a while? Those Brussels sprouts, like cauliflower and broccoli, they start to release compounds called sulforaphane 3 and indole carbinol. And what those do, those turn on your genes for detoxification. So you're getting the glutamine for your gut health, but you're also turning on the body's detoxification machine. You need about 5 grams a day, and you want to take that glutamine between meals. All right, magnesium. Magnesium is one of the most important elements for your gut health and the gut lining. And the best way I can recommend for you to get that is, folks, just start taking mineral essence. It's recommended that we need 200 milligrams a day for gut health, but guess what? Mineral essence has double that. And you can also turn to leafy greens, nuts, and seeds. Now, look, I've traveled the world. Wherever this product is available, people go, oh, it's really not a great tasting product, but you have to find ways around that. So how I take it, I take a sachet of Red, I put it in a shot glass in the morning, I put my mineral essence in there, I add a little bit of turmeric in there, liquid turmeric as well, that's liposomal in nature, and then I add 2 drops of our peppermint vitality, and that's my morning shot. I'm starting my day off on an empty stomach, lining my gut with the minerals that are needed for my overall gut health. If you feel a little brain foggy, Mindwise is a great product. It doesn't support just your brain health, but your heart function as well. It's got the omega-3 fatty acids. It's got Alcar and GPC and CoQ10. CoQ10 is really important for normal blood pressure as well. Generous amounts of vitamin D3, which is super important for your immune system. And it's also one of only a few products within Young Living that's formulated with turmeric. And you may be saying, well, what is Alcar GC? Well, alpha GPC, acetyl L-carnitine, is a chemical that's released when a fatty acid found in soy and other plants breaks down. And L-carnitine is a type of amino acid that benefits energy levels by transporting fatty acids into the mitochondria, the energy centers where they can be burned up as fuel. So again, you think you're using a product for one reason, and then you find out it has so many other benefits. And that's what you'll find with our Young Living products, that there are so many other benefits that you can get from taking these products. Look, know why you're taking something. So many times in my nursing career, I would meet, Wendy asked me the other day, she said, hey, what's a nurse patient advocate? Well, back in 2010, I went to some extensive training at the University of Arizona, and I spent 14 days, at 14 hours a day training in learning how to advocate for patients. And one of the things that my very first patient that I helped, she was on 35 different medications, folks. She had lost 45 pounds. had chronic diarrhea, vomiting, nausea every day. And I worked with her to create a medical timeline. And what we did was, in a matter of a few months, she was down to 3 essential medications that she needed to stay alive. One of them was a blood pressure medication, one of them was insulin, and another medication for some other things that were going on in her body. Now that's tremendous. She went from 35 to 3. She still sends me a very nice email every month and says, Ed, thank you so much for helping me 10 years ago. I'm thriving. By the way, she put on those 40 pounds. She didn't have those 45 pounds to lose. She put them back on, and she is a very, very healthy woman these days. All right. Your gut needs B vitamins for your cognitive function, for function of the heart. Can you imagine a sponge and all of a sudden you had the water that was going into the sponge was filled with B vitamins? That's what your cardiovascular system does with B vitamins. It supports your mood and maintains healthy energy levels. So these claims, when someone asks you about a product, again, you have to show them the value. Tonight, the value we're talking about are cognitive function. All right, let's take a closer look at what we call the microbiome, because these are the money slides, because this is really the crux of what gut health is all about. And your microbiome, what is that? Well, I want you to think of a beehive and imagine that there were 100 trillion bees in this beehive, and there were 10,000 different species of bees. Well, in your gut, the microbiome is the 100 trillion bacteria that has 10,000 different species. And you want to know a really good thing, it's not just your gut anymore now. They're finding that your heart has a microbiome, your skin has what's called a stratobiome, your lungs, the uterus in women, the testes in men, the saliva in your mouth, all has its own microbiome. And we have to feed those very specifically. And you've probably met someone and you were sitting in the room with them, and let's just say it didn't smell like essential oils. I'm going to share a story with you. A few years ago, I was traveling back from Australia, and I was very fortunate to be upgraded to first class, and I was laying down and I was sleeping, and I just remember smelling some things. I'm like, what is that smell? And I sat up, and the gentleman across the way was having a very bad gas attack. It was just not smelling good at all, nothing like essential oils. So I got up, and the only bottle that I had in my bag at that time was a bottle of Joy. And I got up and I started to anoint him. I just stood right up and I was sprinkling his whole area with Joy. And one of the flight attendants came up to me and she said, I don't know what that is in that bottle, but thank you very much, because the cabin does really smell nice. And thank you, I really appreciate that. But if you're having gas, which everybody does, and it's really kind of foul smelling, that's an indication that you have a disruption in the gut's microbiome. All right, here's the money slide. Get your cameras out, get your cell phones out. I want you to take a picture of this slide here, because when someone asks you, what does the microbiome do? I'm going to tell you, it acts as a physical barrier to pathogens. It aids in your digestion. It helps with detoxification. It influences your immune system. It handles stress hormones response. It assists in your sleep at night, and it controls inflammation pathways. Folks, your microbiome has a huge job, a huge job. And if you do not have a healthy microbiome, guess what? You're not only going to have neurological problems later on, but you're going to have a plethora of problems, as you see here on this slide. So if you can screenshot it, get your phone out, I want you all to know this. And this is the one thing, when someone asks you, what does the microbiome do? Why is it important? Then you're going to be able to answer that question, and you're going to be able to help educate them. Now, in your microbiome, you have good bacteria, not good bacteria. Overall, you want 85 good and 15% not good. That's the appropriate ratio. And the good girls and the good guys are called commensal or symbiotic. And the bad guys or the bad gals, well, they get a bad rap, but they actually have a job to do. So like E. coli, which would cause severe illness, actually helps produce vitamin K, which is important for blood clotting. H. pylori, which can cause peptic ulcers actually helps to regulate your appetite. So normal levels of H. pylori actually turn off your sensation to want to eat more food. And C. difficile plays an important role, and they're still looking at what it does, but when it gets out of balance, 14,000 people a year just in the US are dying from this alone. And that's a pretty old statistic. That's a 2015 statistic. I'd probably say it would be more now. Well, back in 2008, yeah, 13 years ago, they created the Human Microbiome Project, and the National Institutes of Health created this because they wanted to understand how does the microbiome work. Okay, here's my question. If you're going to a physician, why does he or she not know about this? Why do they not talk about the microbiome? Well, the reality is that they're not trained in it. You have to be working with a functional medicine physician to understand that. And the best way that you can do that is to go to ifm.org, type in your zip code, and you can find functional medicine physicians wherever you are within the United States. And that's the beauty of it. And they are trained to get to the root cause of the problem, and they look at your gut health. And 10 years ago, when I had my initial evaluation by a functional medicine physician, that's the first thing that she went after. She said, let's talk about your gut health. The assessment was this thick, folks. It was literally 150 pages of assessment, of questionnaires that I had to fill out for. Now, when you go to the doctor, when does that actually happen? So I'm not bashing doctors, but I'm saying the system does not work to get to the root cause of the problem. And that's what I want you to start thinking about. All right. So your health comes down to two things, especially in your gut, especially in your brain. It comes down to controlling inflammation. It comes down to controlling free radicals. All right. So if you could all please just mute yourself so that we don't hear the background noise, that would be greatly appreciated. So, all right, I have a question. We were going to talk about biochemicals, and they're called cytokines. And these are small proteins that affect the behavior of other cells. Now, you have three main ones: C-reactive protein, interleukin 6, and TNFA, tumor necrosis factor alpha. All I want you to remember from this is that these cytokines are not good. Now, my question to you is, do you think Big Pharma in the US and North America has any interest at all in controlling biochemicals like cytokines? Most of you might say no, but actually they have a huge interest. And in 2018, Big Pharma, just in North America, spent 20 billion with a B dollars on developing TNFA inhibitors. So what does that mean? These drug companies know that when you can get someone on a pill that is going to reduce their inflammation rather than treating the root cause, you're going to alleviate suffering for a short period of time, and then you've got them hooked, because then it's like, oh, I need the drug to feel better. No, you don't. We just need to clean up our gut health. That's what we need to do. I don't want to be one of those people that is going to be in the line to get this, because I want to get to the root cause by treating my microbiome like it's a 50-carat diamond. All right. Now, when we talk about sugar, this includes the ring dings, the ho-hos, the hoo-hoos, the ding-dongs, the sugary cereal, the sodas that you eat, the Snickers bar, the Three Musketeers, whatever it is you're chomping on that is laden with sugar, you are causing problems. And sugar causes a process called glycation. And glycation binds to fats and proteins, and molecules don't function well when that happens. And these are called advanced glycation end products. So I consume a soda, I create AGEs. What happens? I get inflammation, because the body does not recognize these AGEs as natural, so it attacks them. Okay, so what I'm asking you to be mindful of is the amount of sugar consumption that you take on a regular basis. And you might think things like ketchup and mustard don't contain sugar. Look at the labels. Primarily ingredients are corn syrup and sugar. All right, Dr. James Hill. Now we're starting to make the connection between our gut health and our brain health. So now we're starting to transition. We've outlined what gut health does and what's important. Now we're going to talk about some other things within the brain. And Dr. James Hill, he's a professor at LSU in neuroscience at LSU, and he started studying the microbiome and the brain chemical relationship. And well, he found a lot, actually, everybody. He found that the brain did not get a lot of BDNF, which is brain derived neurotrophic factor. Now, that's really involved in neurogenesis, how the neurons are created, but it also protects the neurons that are already there. So, do you think if someone's gut health is in really poor shape that they have a lot of BDNF? No, they don't. All right, next brain chemical, GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid. It's the main chemical messenger that calms nerve activity. Do you think if gut health is not in good shape that we have a lot of GABA? We don't. We don't at all. So we have two brain chemicals already that are problematic. Number three, glutamate. Now, glutamate, when they do post-mortem autopsies of Alzheimer's patients, there's very little glutamate in their system. This assists in normal brain function. It is actually the neurotransmitter that helps in nerve signaling. It's important for cognition, learning, and memory. And what is the one thing that dementia patients and Alzheimer's patients don't have? A good memory. Okay, folks, look, I worked on an Alzheimer's unit for about 6 months. It's the saddest thing. These people are human beings and they just don't remember anything. They don't remember their loved ones. They look at them and they say, who are you? I do not want that in my end of my life. I really don't. It's also a very abundant and a very, very healthy brain. And so these are things that we have to look at. We have to look at glutamate, we have to look at GABA, and we have to look at BDNF and make sure that we have abundant sources of them for a healthy brain. All right. And you know, it's been said years ago, you've probably heard leaky gut, the term leaky gut. Well, now the new term is leaky gut, leaky brain. We used to think that blood-brain barrier was an impenetrable fortress, and now they know that it's not. And so all those toxins and things that are getting through our system are actually leaking into our brain, causing the dementia, causing the Alzheimer's, and causing all sorts of problems. All right. Let's talk briefly about what's killing the microbiome. And we'll just flash through this because most of this you probably already know. Number one, antibiotics. Look, I'm a nurse. If you have an infection and you need an antibiotic, then you take the antibiotic, but you ramp up the probiotics to give back to the microbiome. One series of even the lowest dose of antibiotics can wipe out the microbiome as much as 33%. So imagine that you started out your day with a full car, and at the end of the day, you only had 66% of your car. Like you would not be able to drive anywhere, right? Same with your gut. The pill for women, it decreases thyroid hormone and testosterone. I'm never going to tell a woman what she should use for birth control, but I would suggest just humbly that you look for other alternatives besides the pill. It increases oxidative stress, inflammation, and insulin resistance, and it depletes your body of vitamins and minerals and antioxidants. So yes, you can give back to it, but it also hurts the microbiome. Environmental toxins. Look, everyone, we have a line called thieves, okay? You could talk about this all day long to everybody new to Young Living. You could just talk about environmental toxins all day long and reducing toxic exposure. And the thieves line by Young Living does exactly that because we don't have paraffins, we don't have toxic pollutants in there that are causing the skin and the rest of the body a huge problem. And I'll share a story with you. Many years ago, in Sarasota here, a woman had contacted me. She's a good friend of a friend of mine. And she said, hey, I need to meet with you. And she had just been diagnosed with the BRCA gene. And she said, I want to meet with you. So we met and she said, hey, do you think I should have, a double mastectomy? And I said, that's not my decision. I said, can we influence what you're doing in your environment, in your lifestyle, so that we're not influencing those genes to turn on later in life? And she said, well, I'm interested in that. And, I took a laundry basket and I went through her house with her. We started in her bathroom. We took all her personal care products, including all her makeup, threw it in there. We went into her kitchen. I said, where's your cleaning supplies? And we took all her cleaning supplies everywhere in the house. We threw them all in there. And we sat down on the couch and I put it on the floor. And I'll say her name was Janice, not her real name. I said, Janice, these products here will turn on those cancer genes for you. I said, let me show you an alternative. She said, okay. And this is where we started. We started with thieves. And she started with the hand sanitizer and the soap and the dishwashing detergent and, the fruit and veggie spray and the laundry detergent. And, she's vibrant and healthy, and she doesn't have cancer now. Now, that's not to say that she may never get it. My point is, she's not increasing her chance of risk by using toxic chemicals on her body. She's using Young Living. And you could talk about that all day long. And, again, this is a great slide to really help people to understand the magnitude of things that they can do using thieves. All right, so NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, your Motrin, your Aleve, your Advil, this damages the gut lining, okay? It thins it out. As you grow older, next month I'll be 60. Every day that I grow older, my gut lining is thinning. I don't take these. I don't take them, okay? If I have pain anywhere, I put our pain cream on. It's that simple. I use the oils to support my body. I do things where I don't have to do this. All right, your herbicide and laden GMOs, look, there's just not enough research. It's gonna screw up your microbiome. If you don't know if it's organic or not organic, just please don't be taking GMOs in your body. Now, 6 gut health essentials. You need prebiotics, you need probiotics. The prebiotics are the sugars that the probiotics feed on. You need fermented foods like sauerkraut or kimchi, or even a little kombucha. Watch the kombucha, it can be high in sugar. I like kefir water instead. You need healthy fats like avocados, gluten-free foods, and low-carb foods. Why low-carb foods? Remember, the sugars and carbohydrates can turn on advanced glycation end products, so we have to be wary of that. Now, we talked about master formula already, but did you know that it's actually a great source of prebiotics as well? Which is really cool, right? You can buy a prebiotic if you want, but you can also just take a master formula and you're helping your gut. We talked about your probiotics. We've already talked about the strains of bacteria in Life 9, but do you know that Life 9 actually helps promote healthy digestion? It supports your gut health and your immune system. It helps with normal intestinal function, which is meaning having regular bowel movements every day. Your fermented foods, your low carb foods, and gluten-free foods should be part of your everyday repertoire of what you ingest on a regular basis. Your healthy fats, well, you got avocados, sesame oil, ghee, which has been used in Ayurvedic medicine in India for
Thank
years,
you.
also known as clarified butter, and extra virgin olive oil, okay? Don't be duped by buying the extra virgin olive oil. There's really no difference. I've talked to folks in Italy. They say it's kind of a scam. Like, you don't really have to buy that and spend another $30 a bottle to get good olive oil. You can buy pretty good olive oil. Olive oil, by the way, folks, is actually a superfood for your cardiovascular system. You have cardiovascular issues, you want to be taking olive essentials. And maybe, Wendy, we can, when we set up our monthly call or our weekly call in April, that can be one of the things we talk about cardiovascular health, because you're not done with me tonight. Wendy and I have already talked about this. All right, peppermint vitality. Peppermint vitality is a boon for the digestion. After every meal, I take 3 drops of Digest Vitality on my tongue and a drop of peppermint right after that. And that really, again, just gives a little bit more oomph to my digestive system. It's also in Digest as well. Now, what I love about Young Living is that no matter where you are in the world, we have products all over the world to help you have a great GI system and great gut health. So if you're in Germany, you've got your Detoxzyme, your Sulfurzyme, your ICP, you have your Essentialzymes 4. If you're in Australia, you've got your Nixure Red, you've got your Sulfurzyme, you've got your Life 9, and I could have put another 10 products in here, but I didn't want to do that. Okay, if you're in Canada, Canada's really lucky. They have a lot of products, their Comfort Tone, the Super B, Life 9, ICP. Again, these all have value. These all have value wherever you are. And if you are struggling to grow your business, everyone, to me, it would be really simple. How do I show my team, the people who are looking to me as a leader, the value of the supplements, the oils, and the products that Young Living carries. And if you can do that, if you can show the value, well, guess what? Your team is going to rock and you are going to rank up like super, super well. So let's review a little bit and then we're going to turn it over to some questions. All right, number one, our gut health is closely related to our brain health. I think that's very evident. Having a healthy GI system actually can reduce your chances for neurological problems later in life, i.e. dementia, i.e. Alzheimer's. The 4 R's of gut health: remove, replace, renoculate, replenish. Cytokines, those are inflammatory modulators and they actually damage our neurological system. And keeping a healthy microbiome is the key to overall wellness. So with that, Wendy, that was 76 slides in about 42 minutes. Not too bad. So I'd like to open it up to some questions. I've got a little bit of time. I do have another call with Singapore at 10 o'clock my time. So I've got about 14 minutes or so. Let's open it up to some questions. And if you'd like to ask a question, maybe just unmute yourself, tell me who you are, where you're from, and go ahead and ask your question.
Education.
Ed, what do you think about Mighty Pro versus Life 9? I've heard it has the pre and the probiotic.
I think it's a great, okay. Let's see if we can get everyone. I'm just going to mute all again. I think it's a great product. I really do. And you want to make sure that you're giving enough strains of probiotic and enough parts per billion of bacteria to really have an effect on the body. So I'm going to give you an example. I do use Life 9, but I also use another product, which I'm not going to name here because I'm just going to say I use another product that actually gives back to my gut microbiome, my cardiovascular microbiome, and my skin microbiome. And so I really understand the importance of diversity. And so, yes, it's a great product, but as we grow older too, we want to really, really give back to our gut with a lot of diversity. Excuse me.
Ed,
Yes.
do you know, I feel like everyone can probably say, yes, this has happened to them. When you can smell someone's breath that's maybe like standing next to you in line, they're not even talking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like stomach, you know, it's coming from the stomach.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on there? Do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, many times in Chinese medicine, they say it's called halitosis. That's the official name of it, right? Medical term it's related to liver. So many times these people really need to cleanse their liver. But there's also an imbalance in the microbiome in there too, Wendy. So when you're starting, so again, the mouth is a huge microbiome in and of itself. And so you can swab your mouth. And many times when there's not a lot of good bacteria in there and a lot of bad bacteria, that will create the breath itself. So multiple sources: 1, GI, your actual gut; 2, liver; and 3, actually the mouth's microbiome. Remember, Wendy, we talked about the skin, the heart, the mouth, the GI system, the uterus in women, the testes in men. They're finding that the lungs have their own microbiome. So this is where this is all evolving. I mean, tonight we're talking about just one microbiome, but next year at this time, get ready, because I'll be talking about them all and how to replenish them all, because it's not just the one anymore. We have to think about it all, because as we said, right, everything is connected. So one gentleman, my acupuncturist, Dr. Chun Zhu, actually his father was one of the original acupuncturists who did acupuncture open heart surgery in China with no anesthesia. Like, he was part of that team, right? So this guy was the real McCoy. And he said, I asked him about that one time, and his philosophy was that the liver meridians were clogged, he said, when someone has that foul smelling of breath. Now, it could be dental issues as well, but most of the time he would treat the liver.
And may I ask you a question?
Yes.
You mentioned about the CoQ10.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody is on blood pressure medication,
Mm-hmm.
will CoQ10 affect that adversely?
It's a great question that you've asked that. it can help to lower blood pressure, right? So, you know, look, I went to the doctor last week, folks, and I had a great conversation with him because my blood pressure has been riding a little high. And, you know, American Heart Association says you need to be 120 over 80. You know, everyone else says 130 over 80, 85 is good. And I'm in that 137 to 140 range, and it runs in my family, right? So what am I doing? I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm doing. I'm doing CardioGize. I'm doing aspirin a day. I'm doing higher doses of CoQ10. So to answer your question, if I'm a person on blood pressure medication and I'm taking it, I need to monitor it more closely because the CoQ10 can actually lower it even more. Okay, so this to be something very careful about. We think that the supplements that we take don't have that great of effect when in reality, they actually can have a very great effect. So great question, and thank you for that. I hope that, does that answer your question?
Well, my hubby's actually the one on blood pressure medication, and he's taking a different CoQ10, but he's very fatigued, and he heard you just say that, and he thought, I wonder if that's why I'm so tired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, is he checking his pressure regularly?
No.
Okay, so that would be my first suggestion, because if you're on any type of blood pressure medication, you need to be checking to make sure it's effective, right? So I have a little wrist monitor. I just put on it and I hold it by my heart just like this, and I take my blood pressure actually twice a day now because I'm monitoring it, because I'm evaluating, am I going to be one of those people with my family history? But I've also been under a little bit more stress lately with some things, work and otherwise in life. And I got away from a couple of things. I got away from walking every day. So I'm back to doing the lifestyle changes. But if he's fatigued, have him monitor it. It may be riding low. What is the cause of fatigue? Many times it can be related to liver as well, and or other issues. So there would be a multitude of questions that I would really ask him to do that. And if you want to, yeah, if you want to send me just a Facebook message, I'd be more than happy to write those questions out for you.
Thank you.
Thank
Ed,
you.
I have a question.
Yes.
This is Mary from Michigan. Some of the food items and chemicals that you mentioned that are so important for our diet and brain are actually foods that I've had negative reactions to. For example, a lot of the cruciferous Brussels sprouts, sauerkraut, cauliflower, they cause extreme bloating. Like I've been to the emergency room for it.
Okay.
And the glutamate is, I'm sure there's some difference in glutamate items like monosodium glutamate. I've also been to the ER for that. And I know glutamate occurs naturally, but I have an adverse reaction to it. And so I'm just trying to figure out what is the right glutamate and the right cruciferous things.
Well, if you're having that much of a reaction to the glutamate and to the cruciferous vegetables, really, I mean, those were sort of side notes, right? We were talking about with detoxification. Really, it's what are we doing to create the health of the microbiome, right? That's really the main thing, because if we can do that in the GI system, how would you rate your overall GI health on a scale of 1 to 10? What would you say?
A 4.
A 4. Okay.
Like I just started Life 9, and I'm just starting. I've taken Ninja Red for a long time and the granola, but I'm not taking the enzymes, which I'm thinking would be something I should start taking.
Yeah, I would actually start there. I would start
Okay.
there, and many times like I said, the enzyme, like we're born with like the full tilt of the enzyme bank, like like my granddaughter is now, and then over time it just kind of goes like this, and we're not replacing. And enzymes have so much importance in the overall activity. And I've heard people that say, well, I could never eat Brussels sprouts, and I started taking enzymes, and all of a sudden, so I would say start with Essential Enzymes 4, and 40 minutes before your meals, and get a bottle of Detoxime as well, and just start with a couple in the morning and maybe a couple in the evening, so we don't bombard the system, right? Like someone was talking about this Detoxime cleanse where they were taking 30 a day. I'm like, no, don't do that, please. So just start slowly, but Essential Enzymes for every meal, and then see, okay, I'm on Life 9, I'm doing Essential Enzymes, and then really turn in the dial on the foods you're eating. Cut the processed foods, like eat the foods that are close to their food sources. This is where we really make the biggest difference you know, Mary said many years ago, she heard me present on main stage at beauty school, and she came up to me afterwards and she grabbed both my hands and she was just smiling and she says, Ed, food is life. I'm like, absolutely, Mary, food is life. And, you know, we don't give that enough credit, but the functional health folks, I have to tell you, that's what they tune into right away. So, you know, we can't out supplement a bad diet. I'll say that again. You cannot out supplement a bad diet. So when we clean up the diet, we start taking the enzymes, taking our Ningxia Red, doing our Life 9, oh, suddenly we start to feel a little different. And then we say, oh, wow, I got a little more energy today. So start there, start slowly. Again, if you have questions, just reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help and answer your question. That's what I'm here for. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being on the call today.
Hi, I
Hey,
have a
Ed,
question.
this is Mark
Oh.
Meyer.
Hey, how are you?
Doing well. Hey, I had a question about the gut health in children and which of the products you would recommend that we give to our kids who are 7 and 8 to help them with digestion and general health and weight control.
Yeah, that's really good. Basically, they need to be on the probiotics. You know, I personally, I haven't looked at the box of essential enzymes, but you know, I don't think digestive enzymes for kids, you know, maybe one, you know, maybe a detoxime or an allerzyme, you know, a day is necessarily a bad thing. Of course, you have to follow what the recommendations are on the box and on the label. That, you know, the mighty zymes, you know, giving them, you know, some, you know, giving them some good vitamins and minerals, and of course Ningxia Red. I mean, you know, look, you know, my you know that the first thing that I bought for my granddaughter was the seedlings bundle, and then I gave my daughter 2 bottles of Ningxia Red tonight. She had a baby shower today. I'm like, here you go. This is for the baby. Like when that baby starts to she will be a young living baby. So to answer your question, you know, vitamins, minerals, enzymes, probiotics, Ningxia Red.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a question. It's
Yes.
Linda from New York.
Hi, Linda.
Hi. So what can I take instead of master formula, because it has tomatoes in it, right? And I'm allergic to tomatoes.
Well, you can get your vitamin D, you can get your C, your D. See, Master Formula is just a great product because it encompasses so much. But
Right.
you want to, so a lot of the products we talked about tonight, we didn't talk about Super C, but I would really get on Super C, Super B, Super D3, your mineral essence. You need, as Von Harding has said over and over and over again, most disease process come from a depleted mineral state. So we want to make sure we're upping that as well. And then just so when you look at the box, you can go to Young Living's website, you can look at, you know, what's actually in there. Just ask yourself, how do I supplement with Young Living products here that don't have the tomato in there, right? So like you can do that. And it just means you're gonna probably have to take a few more capsules or pills. And also sulfurzyme as well. Look, I've developed 8 modules in functional medicine and functional health. And guess what? In each one of them, sulfurzyme is in there.
I am taking that. Yeah, thank you.
All right, we have time for one more question, everyone. And then I do have to go because at 10 o'clock at night, believe it or not, Wendy, my day is not over. I still have some things to do. I have another call.
Hi, my name is Michelle, and I have a question. Can you tell us anything about Parafree?
Parafree. That was initially set up to cleanse the body from parasites. Now, before taking any product, what I would recommend is, do you actually have parasites? So I don't know if you folks know this or not, but there are, you can actually go online. There are several companies out there that will test your stool. So you get a little kit at your house. It actually tests your microbiome. I did this recently where you send off a little stool sample, you put it in the package, you put it in the mail, you send it out, and they send you back a detailed report. And it will tell you if you have parasites in there, and it tells you what bacteria you are lacking in your microbiome. Folks, it is probably the best $200 you could spend. So initially it was set up for parasites and to cleanse the body of parasites. That was long ago. Those are not claims that we use now. But again, question before you take any product, do I actually have that going on? Everyone should have a stool sample at least once a year to make sure that you.
Oh no.
I'm on mute. You can't get rid of me that fast. So Wendy, do you want to announce our project for April?
Oh, I'm just so stoked and so grateful and thankful that you are willing to pour into our team. So we will be offering weekly classes in April, and we haven't talked about the subject yet. So we will, I don't know, we need to talk and maybe we can ask people what they want to learn about.
Well, I've got several modules, Wendy. I've got a new one called the Immune System Recovery Plan. I'll send these to you, and you can survey your team. Cellular communication, cellular transport, cardiovascular health, energy, detoxification, immunity and defense. I'll send you a list, and it's your little wish list for education for April. And folks, I want to tell you that, first of all, I'm very grateful for this woman in front of me. Like, we've known each other for a little while now, and she reached out to me and said, how did so-and-so get you in their class, and how do we get you?
Ellen.
I said, just ask. And that's how this all came about. And if you can't tell, folks, like, I'm super passionate about empowering all of you. And it's through knowledge. It's through the knowledge of our own bodies, and how does Young Living fit in that we empower each and every one of you. So Wendy, thank you. I will send you that list tomorrow. And folks, get ready, because we are going to rock April. We are going to rock April, right? So
Yes.
if you have questions and we didn't get to them tonight, just reach out to me on social media. I've got a busy schedule. I'll be out in Utah next week filming for a European event. But I'm really good at getting back to people. So let me know how I can be of service. And Wendy, thank you again. I appreciate it.
Who's going to go reevaluate their supplement usage right now? Nothing like a quick, swift kick in the pants from Ed. Thank you so much. And for everyone showing up, and I will distribute the information to your leader. You will have it, and we'll have a recording for this call too, so that you can connect with people who are not on tonight and off of Facebook.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Wendy. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.